Tulsi Gabbard, who's a member of our team, is joining us now. Tulsi, I want to jump right into this issue with the Iranian hackers and the stolen data they emailed to both the Biden campaign team and Harris campaign team and members of the media, because there's two conflicting statements. We have the statement from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, who says, in the emails that were sent, there was stolen information in the text. You could actually, so there wasn't just an offer to get stolen information that you had to reply for, but there was actually excerpts of the stolen information. We don't know the size of those excerpts, but we do know it was there. We know that members of the media received this as well from Iran. But in the statement from the Harris campaign, they acted like as if they didn't get anything in their emails, which is the direct opposite of what the ODNI said. They said, we were made aware that individuals associated with the campaign were among the intended, they call them victims, like they're the victims of getting this stolen information. I think the victim there is the Trump campaign, but to go on, but we're not aware of any material being sent directly to the campaign. Maybe the individuals got it on their personal emails. Like that's somehow different. So that issue, Tulsi, to me, is just at least be honest and just say, you know what, we got this information. We're not using it. We reported it right away. Don't try to act like you didn't get it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the hypocrisy and the double standard is quite incredible. Hearing these reports coming out, it really reminds me of how many times we are seeing that the Kamala Harris campaign, Kamala Harris herself, she really thinks that we're stupid, saying, oh, this wasn't sent to the campaign directly. It was just sent to the personal emails of the people who are running her campaign for president. What's the difference? The email address, does that somehow mean there's a brick wall in between and this person segments all the different parts of their lives based on their email address? It's ridiculous. And again, it not only shows how offensive the mindset is of Kamala Harris and her campaign and to the American people and thinking that we're too stupid to see this for what it really is, but it also does that for the media of how they are treating this situation completely differently than they did when we had the Russia hoax with President Trump back in 2016. As you pointed out, the fact that they're calling Kamala Harris and her campaign the victims of this, when in fact it was President Trump's senior team and their emails were the ones that were hacked and their information that was leaked to their opponent in this campaign. It speaks volumes once again about the propaganda media and who they are blatantly and overtly working to benefit. I think from a policy standpoint, the fact that this is happening where Iran or their actors are hacking information and leaking it and sending it to Kamala Harris's campaign, it says who they want to win. And why is that? Because under President Trump, he exerted and projected strength as our president and commander in chief. And under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, Iran has never been more enriched and more able to continue to provide funding and all kinds of support to Islamist terrorist groups like Hezbollah and others, and Hamas and others. So, the policy standpoint and the contrast once again on these two candidates based on this single action alone, it just further highlights what we can look forward to if either one of these candidates wins as president. Obviously, with President Trump, they greatly hampered Iran's ability to continue to develop nuclear weapons and continue to arm and support terrorists. The opposite is true. Iran is closer to being able to have a nuclear weapon and has provided incredible support to these terrorist organizations.
If the flip side, too, you're talking about the hypocrisy. If the Trump campaign received information like this from Russia, just like this, if it was just pieces of information and they report it like they say they did here and followed the right steps, the Harris team would immediately say, this is the evidence that Vladimir Putin and the Russians are campaigning for Donald Trump. So using their own logic, can I not say that this is the evidence and it proves that the Ayatollah and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and their cyber team are rooting for Vice President Harris and Tim Walz?
Yeah, I mean, if you use their logic, then that would be a consistent conclusion to reach. But, something like that doesn't even need to happen, as we saw with the Attorney General Merrick Garland's big press conference he had a week or two ago, where he was declaring that Russia is attempting to influence our election once again. there was no direct reported interaction between Russian efforts and the Trump campaign or whatever the case may be. There was no parallel to what we're seeing now with this Iranian hack and email leak of information. The fact is, for Attorney General Merrick Garland to stand there, and I think FBI Director Christopher Wray was by his side, for him to stand there and hold this big press conference warning the American people about foreign interference in our election, pointing to the Trump campaign, that press conference in and of itself was interference in our elections and trying to convince the American people of something that quite frankly is actually happening just by virtue of the Attorney General having that press conference in and of itself. There's so much that's going on here. We're seeing the use of these federal agencies to try to rig this election to benefit Kamala Harris, the weaponization of these entities and the FBI and the Department of Justice. My hope is that the American people who are watching this play out are recognizing it for exactly what it is, and we're going to continue to deliver the message about what the issues are and the record of President Trump versus Kamala Harris, and how we do need change. President Trump is the guy who can fix what Kamala Harris has broken and bring about that positive change.
Tulsi, you've done some events with President Trump, but you've also kind of started this tour with RFK Jr., and you've got another big event coming up this Saturday in Las Vegas. So as you're traveling the country, hitting different cities, and also with unique figures like yourself and RFK Jr. What are you picking up from people that are coming to those events? Do you think it's some new people coming as well?
Yeah, there are no doubt people who may have supported me, who've been following me over the years. There are Bobby Kennedy supporters who are coming out. There are Trump supporters who are coming out. In the first event that we had, which was in Phoenix last weekend. I'm having a hard time keeping track of days of the week here. It was just this past weekend. As we were holding this dialogue and this conversation on the stage, I turned to the audience and asked them to raise their hands if they were a Democrat or a former Democrat or an independent. And almost half of the hands in that room shot up in the air. We had well over 1,000 people who came and attended that event. Unfortunately, hundreds were turned away at the door. But that was an indicator of how many people have maybe walked a similar path that I have in choosing to leave the Democrat Party because of the insanity of their radical and extreme and woke ideologies, and the fact that they are now the party that is under the control of the cabal of warmongers and neocons. That is Kamala Harris's Democrat Party.
So I think it's important that they're hearing from you, folks that have maybe made that decision to say, you know what, let me think about where I'm going to vote this time, and maybe I'm going to vote differently than I have in the past, and I don't feel like this is really my party anymore. I'm not really welcome inside, but they still want to hear from people who kind of are on the inside to know that they're thinking the right way and even making the right decision. So I think what you're doing is great and very cool for the Republican Party, and really for President Trump and for politics in general. So people in the Las Vegas area this Saturday, check it out. But as you heard from Tulsi, make sure you get there early, get your seat early. Tulsi, as always, we appreciate being part of our team on Seculo and the broadcast. And I think that you hear it right there. The fact that people are being turned away from these events, half the people are Democrats, former Democrats, and they're getting to hear from people who are inside both the Democrat Party, but also inside Trump's world.
That's right. And you even saw images of the car motorcade going to the event in New York last night for President Trump, and there were people filling the streets just to see the motorcade. And it wasn't just people curious. You saw people with a lot of Trump merch on, with Trump hats, that in a place like New York, there was still a large crowd to line the streets to see his motorcade. But then inside the event as well, there was no high-profile singer free concert that people were getting. It was just a normal President Trump rally, and they filled up an arena. And there were people that got there hours upon hours early to be able to be there in attendance. I think that it has a lot of that feel of 2016, where the polls showed something very close. Actually, it wasn't even very close. It was Hillary Clinton by a landslide. And yet the enthusiasm gap is what the polls aren't picking up on, who's going to actually go and place their vote on November 5th, or early if you're a Democrat voter. But we will see how it turns out. It just has a different feel than even 2020.